Very good morning, dear children. Dear children, we are going to start the next chapter of history, that is chapter number 8, Women, Caste and Reform. And children, see, now if you talk about your life and the life of children who lived about 200 years ago, children, it was totally different. Nowadays, most of the girls from middle class families, they go to school and you can study in a co-ed institution as you are studying now, and you can go to several colleges, you can opt for several universities, and even you can do job after completing your studies. Now they have to be adults. Before now there is a particular age for getting married, fine, there is a particular legal age for getting marriage which is according to law, fine. And according to law, children, the children, I mean the adults, they can marry anyone. Anyone means they can the life partner can be from any caste, any community, and even children nowadays, the widows can remarry too, fine. So all women, they are equal, same as men, they get the equal rights and they can even stand in the elections. And it's not like that that at every place the same scenario is there. In some places the women are not actually enjoying their freedom. Now if you talk about the poor people, they do not have, they don't go to schools and they are not getting education, fine. And in some families, even women cannot choose their husbands also, they cannot choose their life partner. Now if you talk about 200 years ago, now the time which is today, and at that time the scenario was totally different, fine. How? Now the children, they were, there were many social issues, and one of them was no child marriage. So children, the children were married at an early age, fine. Even Hindus and Muslims, they both, the both men can marry more than one wife, fine. So this was also a social issue that time. And in even in some parts of the country, in our country, there was a uh, system that was known as sati system. So in that sati system, children, the widows, they were praised a lot if they burnt themselves in the funeral pile of their husbands. Sometimes they willingly, used to adopt that, adopt the death, and sometimes they were forced to do that. And that system was known as sati. And the meaning of sati was, children, virtuous women. So women's right to property, which you discussed in class 6th, Hindu Succession Amendment Act, that time that was also not there, fine. So women were not allowed, they don't have the right to property also. And even children, the women, they do not have any access to education, means they cannot study, fine. And in many parts of the country, children, it was believed that if a woman is going to be educated, that woman is going to become a widow, means her husband is going to die if the woman is going to is going to become educated. So figure 1, you can see, it is a painting of sati, fine. Now differences, children, fine. There were so many differences, fine, between the men and women, and that was not only in one society, it was everywhere. In most regions, people, caste system was a lot prevalent, a lot of caste system was there, fine. Now Brahmins, Kshatriyas, children, we have discussed in class 6, they belong to the upper caste, fine. After that comes the traders, money lenders, they were the Vaishyas. And At last were the Shudras. Fine. And after that, the caste which was called as untouchable. These were the people who were not those who were called polluted people because of their jobs. They had to do certain odd jobs, like, fine, so they were not allowed to enter temple. They were not able to draw, draw water from the well of the upper caste. They cannot bath in the pond which the upper class used to take bath. So they used to see these people untouchables as inferior. Fine. But children, over the 19th and the 20th century, what happened? Many norms, many perceptions, many ideas they changed. Fine, that we are going to discuss in this chapter how those ideas were changed. So working towards change now, who started working towards change? Obviously the social reformers. Fine. So we are going to study about them. From the early 19th century, children, we find debates, discussions, so at every place debates and discussions were being held on the social customs and practices, you know just to bring out a new character in them. Fine. The important reason for this was the development of new norms of communication. Different, the way of communication was changed now. Fine. How come books, newspaper, magazine, leaflets, pamphlets, now they all were printed, and even they were cheap also, and they could reach more people as compared to the manuscripts. Fine. So even the ordinary people could read them. Fine. And those who know how to read and write, they were easily understanding the ideas, and these leaflets could be in their own language, so they can easily understand that. And the sorry, the issues which were printed in these newspapers and all was based on all issues, like that can be social, political, economic. Fine. And even religious. Now see, they were not only debated by the men, but sometimes even women were debating in them in the cities. Fine. Now these discussions were reaching to more public, and sometimes these discussions linked to the movements which brought out social change in the society. Fine. These debates were often initiated by Indian reformers and reform groups. So there were some Indian reformers, there were some reform groups, those who were really encouraging them. Whom? The debates. Now, one such reformer we will talk about was Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Fine. 1772 to 1833. Now, he was the founder of Brahmo Sabha, and this Brahmo Sabha, afterwards it was called as Brahmo Samaj in Calcutta. Now, this Raja Ram Mohan Roy, what they used to describe, they were known as reformers. Why? Because they were bringing a change which was very important in the society. They were protesting against the unjust practices. Fine. And those who had to be abolished. So for this for persuading people in a positive way, so he just wanted to people to adopt a new way of life. He was against everything which was happening wrong in the society. Fine, children. Now he was also keen, very very you know happy to spread the knowledge of the Western education. In the previous chapter, we talked about that Western education, something was done with education. Now, this social reform, the Raja Ram Mohan Roy, he was very much interested in spreading the Western education in the country, and what he thought that it is going to bring a greater freedom, and this education is going to bring equality for women. He wrote about the way women were forced to bear the burden of domestic work, conform to the home and kitchen. Now, what he wrote in his works, He wrote that how the women are just burdened with the domestic work all the time, the same homework and kitchen work they had to do, and even they are not allowed to go out even for getting educated. Changing the lives of widows. Now, how this social reformer somewhere linked with the changing the lives of the widows. Fine, so we discussed previously that there was a sati system. Fine, even the women's I mean the widows, they were facing a lot of problem. Now after that he started the campaign against the practice of sati. I discussed with you. So he was, he was a very learned person. He was well versed in Sanskrit, Persian, and other Indian and European languages. So through his writings he just wanted to, um, stop this sati pratha. Fine, so he just wrote against this widow burning, and he gave an example that there is nowhere in the ancient text it is written that this system should be followed. Fine, even the British officials, they also criticized many of the Indian traditions and customs. So they were very, very willing to listen to what Raja Ram Mohan Roy was saying. So ultimately, children, in 1829, the sati system was banned. Fine. After that, now the strategy which was adopted by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, that was adopted by other reformers as well. Fine. Now whenever they wanted to they wanted to challenge some practice, they used to, connect it with the ancient or sacred texts just to support their idea what they wanted to say. Then they suggested that the practice as it existed at present was against early tradition. So then after that they used to say that this practice is not at all prevalent in the ancient time. So figure 3, you can see it is a popular festival in which, people, they had to go through, they had to pierce their skin, and they were, uh, they had to take swung. Fine, they had to take swings on a wheel. So there were so many social, customs and traditions which were really means shameful. So the Britishers were totally against it. Fine. Now, for instance, if you talk, one of the most famous reformer, now the second reformer we are talking about was is Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Now, he also used the ancient text to just suggest that widow could remarry. Fine. So the British officials, they adopted his suggestion, and children, a law was passed in 1856 that permitted the widow to remarriage. And those who were against this remarriage, obviously they would have, you know, sorry, opposed Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Now, children, by the second half of the 19th century, the movement in favor of widow remarriage spread to other parts of the country. So, the Telugu speaking areas in the Madras Presidency, Veerasalangam, Pantulu, it was an association which was started for widow remarriage. Around the same time, there were many young intellectuals and many reformers were there in the Bombay, those who took pledge to be working for the same cause, for this, widow remarriage only. And children, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, he was the founder of Arya Samaj. Fine. He also supported this widow remarriage. You can see in figure 4. Fine. Then number of widows who were really remarrying someone, they were not seen as, something good which was happening. So they were, facing a lot of problem in the society, and the groups, they were opposing this new law of widow remarriage. Now children, see the next topic. Girls began going to school. So now children, see, the girls, they started going to school. Fine, many of the reformers, they just felt out that education for girl is very important. Why? Because it is going to improve the condition of women. So Vidyasagar in Calcutta and many other reformers in Bombay, they set up schools for girls children, and the first schools were open in the mid 19th century, and really people were very much afraid of sending their girl child to a school. They used to think that this, if the girl is going to school, then she is going to be prevented from the domestic duties, which was not true. Fine, even the girls, they were also afraid, because the girls had to travel through public places, which they were never going out to in the local public, so they had to go now. And they were just feeling that people would have some corrupt influence on them. They were just fearing for all this, and they used to think that the girls should always be in the home itself instead of going to a public place. So therefore throughout the 19th century, most educated women, the women were taught at home only by their either the fathers or the husbands. And even sometimes the women used to teach themselves only. We have seen one example of Rasundari Devi, how she belonged to a very rich family, and how she learnt herself secretly by just tearing out the pages from a book and just adding on what it is written, just getting an idea what it is written. So this way she learnt to read and write. Fine. Now in the latter part of the century, children's schools for girls were opened by Arya Samaj in Punjab and Jyotirao Phule in Maharashtra. So please underline. And even the royal Muslim household families, mm, there also the women learned to read. Fine, at home only they were reading and writing, learning to read and write. Now even for them also the teacher was coming to home only for teaching them. Now there was a social reformer, Mumtaz Ali. She reinterpreted whatever was written, just to argue for the women education. The first Urdu novel began to be written from the late 19th century. Amongst other things, these were meant to encourage women. Now, this novel was just to encourage women to read about religion and domestic management in a language they could understand. Fine. So, in their own, local language that was written. Women write about women. Fine. So, even from the early 20th century, Muslim women like Begums of Bhopal, they played a very important role in promoting the education for women. Why? Because children, they opened primary school for girls in Aligarh, and this lady Begum Rokela Shakhawat Hussain, she started many schools for Muslim girls in Patna and Calcutta, and she was a critique for these conservative ideas, fine, which people had for the women. And she always opposed the idea of looking at women as a inferior. In 1880s, Indian women, now they started entering the universities. They became the trained doctors, teachers. Many of them, they started to write and publish their views. Fine. So from among them was Tarabai Shinde. Fine. So she was a woman educated. Where she got education? At home only at Pune, but she published a book, Stree Purush Tulna, which is a comparison between men and women. So the other example is Pandita Ramabai. Why she was known as Pandita? Because she was a great scholar of Sanskrit. So she also felt that Hinduism is really oppressive towards the women, and she wrote a book about the miserable life of the upper caste Hindu women. And she founded Widows Home at Pune just to provide, shelter to the widows and to those who were badly treated by their husbands and relatives. Sorry, very badly treated after their husband's death. Fine, and supported, trained them skilled with some certain skills so that they can become economically independent. Now there were many orthodox, which were there, like Hindu nationalists felt that Hindu women were adopting the West. Now what they used to think, that if the woman is going to adopt the Western ways, that is going to corrupt the Hindu culture, and it is just going to, finish all the values in the women. Fine. Even Orthodox Muslim were also worried about the changes which education is about to bring in women. Fine. And children, by the 19th century, women themselves were actively working for reforming themselves. They were writing so many books, magazines, they were finding schools, training centers, women associations were set up, and children from the early 20th century they formed political pressure groups to push through laws for female suffrage, like right to vote. And they themselves now started, you know, pushing out for all these better healthcare facilities, education, and many of them they joined the various kinds of nationalist and social movements from 1920s. In the 20th century, children, the leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, they also supported the demands of the women. What they are demanding? They were demanding for equality and freedom for women. So they said, they promised them that the men and women they are going to be equal after the independence. Fine. So women should first concentrate on the anti-British struggle. After that, we are going to make you equal to men. Law against child marriage. Now, children, a law was also passed against the child marriage. Now you can see this girl in the picture, which is just 8 years. Fine. So the legal, in 1929, the Child Marriage Restraint Act was passed. Fine. So it was totally abolished child marriage. After that, the age was fixed. For man it was 18, and for girl it was 16, and after that it changed, 21 for men and 18 for women. Fine. Caste and social reform, children. Fine. So the next topic, see. Now the social reformers they were also discussing and criticizing the caste inequalities which were taking place. Now Raja Ram Mohan Roy he just translated the Buddhist text and told people how there was nothing like caste in that. Pratna Samaj, it was telling about the tradition of bhakti, and they believe that spiritual equality of all caste. Fine. There is no caste and no, there is a spiritual equality. Fine. And if you talk about Bombay, Paramhans Mandali, it was founded. Fine. Okay. Then after that, just they were just working to abolish the caste system. Many of the reformers, many associations, people from even upper caste, they were just working on it. Secret meetings were being held, and just to violate the caste taboos on food and touch. And lot of efforts were made to just get rid of this caste prejudice in the life of the people. There were also others who questioned the injustice of caste social order. During the course of 19th century, children, some Christian missionaries we talked about in the previous chapter, they were opening up the schools for the tribal groups and the lower caste children. So they were also equipping the children with lot of resources, and they were just changing their way of life. At the same time, children, the poor, They began leaving their villages just for jobs, fine, because jobs were opening up in the cities and a lot of factories were being set up, municipalities, jobs were there in the municipality also. When there was expansion of cities, so a lot of demand was there for labor. Drains were dug up, roads were built, buildings constructed, cities were cleaned. So for all this, they required a lot of people. Fine. So from where this labor was coming, this labor was coming from either from the villages or the small towns. Fine. Many of them they belong to low caste. Fine, and they were getting jobs, odd jobs. Fine, and some of the people they just went to plantations which were there in Assam, Mauritius, Trinidad and Indonesia, and they were very happy there at these new locations. The life was very hard, but people were just thinking about that their life was miserable by the oppressive hold of the upper caste. So they were really happy with their life. They were saying that daily humiliation is, very bad than working hard. Fine. Now, who could produce shoes? Now, for this also, children, the caste was there. Those who belong to very low caste, they were making the shoes out of the skin of dead animals. So, who's going to take out that skin? Who's going to make that leather shoes? Fine. But this after the during the First World War, the demand for shoes for the army it raised a lot. So these people they earned a lot of money out of that. They were selling their shoes at a high prices. There were many jobs also like army. They used to offer different opportunities like for Mahar people, which were regarded as untouchable, to which caste Dr. B.R. Ambedkar belonged. So they had a separate Mahar regiment. So Ambedkar, he started this Dalit movement, and his father was also teaching in a army school. Fine. So children, you can see figure 11. Figure 11 is showing you the Dublas in Gujarat. They are carrying mangoes to the market. Fine. So the next topic, children, we will discuss in the next module. Thank you and have a nice day.